A few years ago, documentary done. What happens in clubs? Two women, I think, or three or two women, I think, went, and they had clothing with sensors that they can live monitor and see which part of the body is being touched. Legs, bosoms, head, back, whatever. The moment you touch and the depth of the touch, it registers because it's all mapped out by different sensors. It's like a cloth specifically designed that whenever you touch something, it maps out you can see on the computer which part of it is changed. In an hour or something, or whatever the time was. How many, I've forgotten the actual numbers now, 45 times or something, they were touched within that small time frame, without their consent.
Women, modern women say that Islam is misogynistic, that Islam is sexist, that they oppress women. That's like the biggest arguments against Islam, that they force the hijab, therefore, the Iran protests, they, for instance, stuff like that. Or what do you have to say?
Sure. In fact, it's the modern women that are accepting Islam. 75% of the converts, even in this country, were educated modern women. So it is not true. Currently, historically, it is not correct to say modern woman disagrees. Modern woman agrees to Islam, that Islam is not feminist, misogynistic. Islam is not oppressing women. That's why they're becoming Muslim. If it was the case, the modern woman, 3 in 4, 75% of the people that are becoming Muslim, who are educated women, shouldn't be accepting Islam in the first place, if that was the case. It's a contradiction in terms. How do you expect, if Islam was seen to be misogynistic, oppressing women, not giving her rights and so on, that the same modern women are accepting Islam? Okay, that's setting the scene. Secondly, how true is it then in reality when we are discussing? Islam has emancipated women long before any charter came into existence here to emancipate the women. Okay, long before any kind of all this modern movement came to emancipate women, to say that, oh, I have a soul. People were debating whether women had a soul when Islam gave her their rights to even own property. That's what we're talking about. When did women have the right to own property in this country? Not too long ago. Okay, not too long ago. So people, you can understand how they were treated so badly here, that an individual that can be sold in markets, an individual who had no soul, taken like a property and no rights to own a property and behaved in such a way, like a commodity. That's why they wanted to give a voice to say, we want to change this, we want to be seen as a human being. That's how you had all this first, second, third feminism, the waves of feminism. But of course it's now moving to a different trajectory. In fact, it's no longer about women's rights, it's about being women's rights higher than men's and even greater. That's how it's going. But there are essential principles in which to women to come to some rights and dignity and honor and responsibility and looked after as a human being was a good thing. But Islam provided all that. In fact, Islam tells us, the Prophet said that, in fact, who has the most right over you? Who is the most, if you want to give rights and if you want to give honor and so on, who has that in Islam? Man, my father or my mother. The Prophet of Islam, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, it's your mother first. And then the man asked to Prophet again, and then who? He says, your mother. Second time.
That's amazing.
Now this man, this companion of the Prophet, is now wondering what's going on here. He says, and then who, O Prophet of God? Your mother. He kept asking, and then who? Your father. And your father. Yeah, after saying several times, your mother, your mother, your mother has the right, then your father.
Oh.
So now you can see how the importance Islam provides as a human being to the relationship with their mother, and how you look after her, care for, give her honor, give her rights, and all of that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the whole idea that Islam is against women, absolutely, people have no understanding of the teaching of Islam is. The Prophet of Islam said, طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم, whether it's male or female. The seeking of knowledge is obligatory on every Muslim, male and female. When did women get educated in European countries and so on?
I guess.
I'm not asking you to answer, a rhetorical question. Not too long ago. When people were not educated, we had women, like in our Islamic civilization, establishing universities, the oldest universities. Okay? Is there someone called Fatima who started the oldest university in the world, right? The oldest university in the world. From that, you had other people from other countries later on modeling against this university. The oldest known university, instituted by women, right? We have hundreds and thousands of women scholars from whom we have our religion transmitted. Their biography goes in volumes. You would not find a Christian or a Jewish woman scholar, say the Middle Ages. How many? Can you even name some? You won't even hardly find a name. Give me a name scholar. We can give you 30 volumes of women scholars. Books written like this, by the way.
Really? Like
Yeah. So this is by someone called Nadwi. Okay, I think it's Akram Nadwi. Okay, Akram Nadwi. If I'm not mistaken, it's definitely a Nadwi. He's written, he's women companions of the Prophet. There's a biography of the women companions of the Prophet. If I'm not mistaken, about 30 volumes. This is the level of how Islam treated women. The companions of the Prophet went to many of the wives of the Prophet to learn Islam, to have judgment, decisions making. This is how Islam from the very beginning uplifted women in their honor and dignity as a role, someone who can be learned from, taken as a scholar, someone as a, not only just like a soulless human being, but someone who is honored and respected and trusted, someone to be imparting you the message of God, message of the revelation. Okay? When Islam makes people to cover their hair, this is Islam's sociological model of preventing women being molested in a society because of the provision of a dress code. In Islam, we have behavioral laws and regulations, how we behave outside our home, in the society, in the marketplaces, and so on and so forth. Because even in this country, which is England, of course, Speaker's Corner, if you go along naked and walk along naked, you will be probably arrested for public disorder crime, right? Because, there's a public disorder crime where you're going again naked. You can't do that. There is a law against it, right? There might be some places which they allow, but in general, you can't expect to turn up to work naked. They would not tolerate that, right? So there is a dress code even in our societal matters, in everyday living.
There are rules,
Islam also provides our dress code, which is a dress code of modesty. When women of the time of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that period of Jahiliyyah and before Islam, women, there were people who are known in their attire and their dress, and people say she's a prostitute, and they'll go with her and then use her services. This is before Islam. Islam came to change the way people look at a believing woman who is righteous and virtuous and someone who is modest and decent. By looking at this, the moment you look at her, you know that she's a Muslim woman, she's not for sale. She is not for sale. That was to prevent any molestation, okay? Because she's dressed in modestly. Look at how nuns dress, even to this day. If you looked at from her back, you'll say she's a Muslim woman walking with a hijab, right?
Of course.
This is a modesty. Look at the pictures of the mother of Jesus, Maryam.
Always covered.
Always in a dress,
Because the covering as well. The women in the church, they need to be. Yes, they need to be covered.
So these are the signs of dress code behavior showing modesty. So Islam provided a particular dress code because the legislation comes from God and His wisdom. He knows what constitutes which part we need to cover as modesty.
Right.
You know, imagine people's nose was the most sexiest thing, right? Which is not. That's not what even a feminist or a sexist considers that. Do they? Otherwise they will cover their nose all the time, right? Okay?
Yeah.
Right? It's not. But there are certain elements of human body that people find attractive, and that attraction leads to people trying to either, you know, have relationship by either consent or by force, which is the cause of rape, right? To prevent this in society, people dress modestly to stop this kind of feeling to be aroused, for example, right? That's why people, not only because of cold and something people wear dresses, is to cover those parts in which the sexual attraction will be displayed, and that will then bring in some kind of, you know, change between two individuals. We're not animals. We are human beings which are more socialized and more advanced in the way we interact with people.
Yeah, of course.
You don't find a human being and just go there and see someone, oh, that's my brother's wife, let me go and have sexual relation with that. Oh, that's my auntie, and that's my, you know, whatever. They don't do that. People have a boundary in saying, no, we are not going to have a relationship like that. In fact, even if there was a woman that are going to have a relationship, we need to have consent. I mean, animals don't give consent and seek consent, do they? Human beings do. That's why rape is an action done without a consent. And it's a crime. The consent is seen to be very, very important. So there is a dress code to prevent many of these things, and God in His wisdom knows which ones works better. So we are told how much to loose clothing, loose-fitting clothing, how much, women likewise, and a part distinction between man and a woman we see in everyday life. Woman covers their hair. Okay, because from the wisdom of God, okay, this is one aspect of woman's body in which it is acting as a sexual, part of the body where the sexual attraction can be initiated and so on and so forth. Okay. This is the wisdom of God. This is the understanding that Islam has provided, and it caters for that, so that people are not moved immediately, okay? But between spouses and so on, husband and wife, of course, you don't cover your hair. You know, what you do at home is something different, right? Do you follow? He's just trying to read something. So, but in public, she covers her hair.
Okay.
Yeah. Now think about it in a different way as well. Man and woman. People try to look after themselves and beautify themselves.
Yeah.
Look smart. Yeah. Looks nice. Yeah. Attractive.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So you have the grooming done and so on and so forth. Women have a lot of cosmetics. Yeah. Some men do as well, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
How much do you think, comparatively, in general, if you look at the two male and female species of human beings, how much time, money is spent on decorating, looking after, beautifying, making hair attractive between man and woman?
I'm guilty of that, yeah.
Who spends more, men and women?
Women, generally.
I don't have to say it. Generally, it's women, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it's because they do recognize the hair plays an important part in their beautification, in their attractions, in their, sexual vibe they're giving out, for example, right? Or even the glamour or whatever looks they want to give, like presentable, right? They give more importance, more attention to the hair, like what some men would do.
Yeah, like what I do.
Okay? So this is something that is generally observable. It might change something in later, who knows? But I'm not making an argument because of that. I'm saying the argument is God in His wisdom knows which part of our body needs to be covered in public.
Yeah,
okay? So because I have total confidence in God's wisdom and His knowledge, I would, even if I didn't understand and appreciate that law, I would follow it. But even though I can appreciate some of it now, looking at the historical contextual reality of how men and women beautify themselves, okay? But even if that wasn't the case, my faith and my reliance on God would be sufficient enough to say, God has given us these rules of dress code, and He knows what's best and what's not. Okay. Likewise, when He gives us about food, okay, He told us certain foods to avoid, certain foods. Only a part of these things. We might not know the wisdom behind it, but we know that what He has prevented us from is something that's not good for us. He allows us halalan tayyiba. He says whatever is good eat from it. What is good and pure, eat from it. That means, the way we live, from God's law, God is giving us the best law to live our life. Best law. To live our life in a decent way, human interaction, dress code and so on, is the best for us.
Right.
That's why, if you look at the interactions between man and woman in this society, there was a few years ago a documentary done. What happens in clubs? Two women, I think, or three or two women, I think, went. And they had clothing with sensors that they can live monitor and see which part of the body is being touched. Legs, bosoms, head, back, whatever. The moment you touch and the depth of the touch, it registers because it's all mapped out by different sensors.
Yeah.
It's like a cloth specifically designed that whenever you touch something, it maps out you can see in the computer which part of it is changed. In an hour or something, or whatever the time was. How many, I've forgotten the actual numbers now, 45 times or something, they were touched within that small time frame, without their consent. So look at how people in this country, in a country of freedom, look how people are abusing and exploiting, right? Without their consent, because of an environment that is provided, which people are either drunk or not drunk and exploiting women because of their sexual gratification.
I see.
Right?
Yeah.
In Islam, this kind of environment is not even allowed because it's not conducive to a good social, emotional health, right? Physical health as well. Because from this, what happens is then you go next step and so on, what happens? Or people think, diseases, problems, rapes, one-parent family, you name it, because of this interaction. But this is the social norm of this country, and that's what they're living by. But Islam provides another alternative, the best alternative, that you don't have any kind of sexual relationship outside marriage. If you want, in marriage, and you have that bond, you nurture, you develop, and you increase in love, and so on, then you don't have to worry about diseases which are sexually transmitted. You don't have to worry about affairs your wife, your husband is having. You don't have to worry about dissolving the marriage because of that. And one-parent families, children growing up from that. None of this. So these have repercussions, huge effect in society. How many children are growing up depressed because of one-parent families? Islam says none of that. It's very important that we have a healthy family, healthy society, and that's why the laws are there to make sure that the society is thriving between man and woman in this way. So when people say Islam doesn't give rights and benefits and equality to and so on, because Islam has an outlook which is balanced. It gives us roles and responsibilities of the two. Man and woman are not the same. So people can be fooled in thinking man and woman are the same. They are not the same. Women can multitask, you and I cannot. You have to accept and admit this weakness that we have, or not weakness, you're going to say like the engineering that we have in our brains, we're not as good as them. We're not as better as women in terms of multitasking. You have to bite it and accept it. You can't fight for it. And you have not feminism. What's the opposite of feminism? Masculinism? What is it? Toxic masculinity? I don't know. What's that? You can try all your best, but it's wired in your brain. You cannot multitask like a woman can. You can have, I'm going to protest and so on, I want equal rights. You can never come to the stage of multitasking capability like a woman can.
Right.
So what does Islam do? It recognizes the difference between man and woman, and it assigns the responsibilities to man and woman likewise. So the false idea of feminism and toxic masculinity doesn't arise in Islam. We have a balance. So when people talk about feminism and so on, it's misunderstanding the difference between man and woman biologically, not socially. Social construct can change anytime, anywhere. You can have, man being like the slaves of a woman in a society, and all men are servants for all men. They can change a society like that. But what we're saying biologically, the way we are born in our genetic makeup is different. That needs to be recognized by feminists. So when Islam provides, for example, the wedding, it is not the gift that is given within this wedding, that to the husband provides the wedding gift, the mahar, to the wife. But what happens in society in this country now? I mean, look at who's receiving the gift. No, I'm saying in a society, like, if you think about it, so we're talking about in weddings like this, people had a misconception, but actually it's the opposite. Women's it's the receiving end, she's getting it. The only example they bring is the issues of inheritance. Oh, woman gets half of the inheritance. And the other issue is, oh, she's got half of the brain of intelligence like a man. Okay? Misunderstanding from the very roots. In Islam, because of the roles and responsibilities are differentiated, men are physically stronger, okay, than women. That is why you don't see men and women all have all the laborious job equally and so on. You know, going historically, it's something obvious, right? You don't have men and women competing on the same sport equally, do they? Running, boxing, they don't. You have women's sports separately. Yeah? They can do that now, and they will get who? Transgender women who are biologically male to win the game. Yeah? Do you know what's happening?
Yeah, I know.
Transgender women who are biologically male, they're competing against the women and they're winning all the games now. Bulk of it. Why? The fact remains the same. The male are still physically, still with a large body mass, they're stronger and more capable, okay? In many sports. Because that's how we are, in our makeup. So if we don't recognize that, we will see this kind of problem that we see in society. So in terms of the issues of inheritance, Islam assigns the job and the role to the breadwinner, to the man in the family. It could be the father, or it could be the husband, or it could be the son, depending on who it is. The woman in the household, like mother, sister, wife, and so on, they don't have to do anything. She can have her business as what she wants, and the man cannot touch even a single penny out of it. But the man has to provide, look after financially, economically, socially, all that she needs to be looked after. Not just only feeding, making her well fed and well clothed, well looked after. All of that have to be provided by the man. Man has to work and get that money, wages, salaries, whatever, to provide the bread to the household. If this is the case, and the woman is in the receiving end, when she's married off, she will be given money by the husband as a marital gift. And when she goes into this new home as a new family member, she doesn't have to spend a single penny. She will be provided for financially. So now look at financially, when she was at home, she has no financial obligation, but she's looked after financially by the male responsible guardian in her family. When she moves over to her next home with her husband, she's looked after by her husband financially. She doesn't spend anything financially and no financial burden. Even she has enough money and wealth, she doesn't have to spend anything, okay? The man still has to provide for her, okay? So, when it comes to inheritance, what is inheritance? Inheritance is a free gift that the deceased, which is usually the father or the mother, gives to the children, right? To the near relatives, as a free gift that you give, which you haven't earned. Think about it. Who deserves, due to fairness, this free gift in what proportion? Imagine now you have a son and a daughter, and you have a father who's passed away and left a lot of wealth. How much of this wealth should be distributed? I'm not talking about the wife now. Let's forget the husband and wife, or the mother. Let's talk about the brother and a sister. In terms of fairness, what sort of proportion should they get as a gift from this inheritance? The feminists, they will say it should be equal, if not more, right? Is that fair? Let me tell you why it's not fair. This brother, when the passing away of the father, he is now the legal guardian, the financial guardian, to spend on his sister to look after her financially, to get her married to another person financially. He needs to provide all of that. Sister doesn't have to provide anything. So he needs extra financial support to look after her. Look after his mom maybe, look after everyone else in the family, look after his wife maybe, and so on and so forth. All the women folks. Now, so she's provided for as a sister, and when she goes to the next household, she will be looked after by the husband. If now you give the equal amount of proportion, you are not committing what we call fairness, because fairness demands that the son deserves more of a share because he has a bigger financial responsibility compared to the sister who has no financial responsibility. Okay? So fairness, I'll give you a chance. Fairness demands, this is what we call equitable as well, that the brother has more financial resources provided to him. That's why his proportion is double in Islam when it comes to inheritance. Because he will provide for the sister and he will provide for his wife who's going to come to his house as well. Okay? If it was the same, it doesn't look fair. So when people say, look, how is not the same? Because they don't understand the fairness issue. They don't look at the context why it's important to be that fair. That is what it is. The issues of the intelligence and so on, they don't even understand what they're talking about. I mean, this is another issue. We'll take some time to discuss this. But Islam gives provisions. In fact, the hadith, the narration itself, the very beginning of it tells you how woman is intelligent enough to say that she is intelligent, not that she's half intelligent than a man. Because the hadith itself says a woman can mislead even the most clever among you. Yeah, she can overrun you with her smartness or whatever. So hadith from the very beginning, which they don't realize, when the hadith says, okay, fine, she has a reduced burden. The hadith is talking about her reduced burden of intellect and so on. Because it was all about a financial transaction in which she is going to be a witness along with another witness, a female witness. Islam says first, if you're going to have a transaction, get it all in writing and get witnesses, because you're going to have problems otherwise. If you have all in writing documented and you have witnesses, then later on you will not suffer problems, because now you have witness and you have documentation evidence. It says get 2 male witnesses. Fine, that's it. If you cannot find 2 male witnesses, it says go find women witnesses. Okay? 1 male witness and 2 women witnesses. The reason it's saying that, because on a historical context, man and women didn't have the same social sphere of interaction. Men were doing businesses and so on and so forth. Women were not interested in business because it wasn't a burden placed on them. So if she is not into this kind of transaction in business in her everyday life, the skill, the remembrance and many other things, she would not be as experienced and as well off in terms of the whole landscape of this particular economic transaction, would not be as good as man. Okay? She may next have to remember many years after or something. Okay? So what? And she might be even coerced and abused and exploited because of her being a female, being a weak. Because in many societies today, women are still considered not as strong as man, and she can be vulnerable. Okay, people can coerce her to make decisions and so on and so forth, right? So to protect all of this, a second witness will remind her if she was to err. أن تضل إحداهما فتذكر إحداهما الآخر. If أخرى, I think this is how the hadith goes. If she was to err, either by compulsions or on fear or so on, even of memory or because of unfamiliarity, then someone can remind her. That was the role. Quran explains why. It's to do that she doesn't have to have this kind of extra burden that she made an error in that point. It's just to prevent from erring happening. Another witness is reminding her. That's all. The Quran doesn't say she's less intelligent, because when the hadith talks about that she has the reduction also in her prayers and fasting. Is prayer and fasting somehow deficient in her intelligence? Of course not. But that shows you how the reduction is applied in terms of this. She has this role of reduction. So the reduction of this financial transaction using this kind of interaction with a economic transaction, she has a reduced burden, and she can also have a support. Just like the man had a support, she would have a support of her own as well. So if you have one man and one woman, she might not have a support with that man only and so on, but she can have a support from her own counterpart, another woman. Why in the beginning we had two man witnesses in the beginning? Because one can also support the other. Yeah, people don't realize that. Why two man witnesses? Because there will be an element of support from the man, one from the other. But a man and a woman itself, because of their social sphere of activity is different, they might not even meet and so on and so forth and have all this. Women have another support of another woman because of that social sphere of difference. That is why it's given like this, not because women are inferior in intellect and intelligence. Okay? And of course the hadith itself tells you very beginning, in fact, how she can overrun and overthrow and outsmart, that's the word, outsmart the man. Yeah? Most intelligent of them, you can outsmart them. So that hadith from the very beginning totally goes against the idea that she has a reduced intelligence because Islam says so. It's not the case. So we talked about how Islam not only empowers women to uplift her. Prophet gave rights, your mother, remember I said?
Of course.
Gives inheritance, gives her dignity and status of nobility and respect as a scholar, as a teacher, transmitter of religion. In the way you'll be treated as a woman, with in fairness and love and respect, not like a commodity and so on. That is well before any human right activists ever came to protest and say we want this. Okay, Islam provided for all of that, and Islam continues to provide for women and this. But Islam's role is that it considers man and women to be not the same, different.
Yeah, I agree with that.
To give you the last example on that, the concept of what Islam provides is a concept called equity rather than equality. Imagine now we have a small human being, a child, up to this much.
Yeah.
This is a wall, okay? Up to this height.
Yeah.
I am this height, I can see beyond the wall. A football game. And you have a child, okay? I'm standing, the child's standing. Is it fair the child's watching the game? Okay. Imagine now there was another child. I wasn't here. Two children. One taller than the other. So you say, you know what? We're going to provide some support, both of them. We'll give them equal height ladders. Same height. So they gave the same height ladders. The one who was taller is able to see the game. And the one who's shorter is not able to see the game. Because the support provided was the same height.
Yeah.
Now, that's equality there.
Yeah.
But did it do the job?
No.
So it wasn't fair.
Not fair at all. Yeah, no.
Equitable treatment or fair treatment is when you notice the differences and you provide the support, what they need, with the amount. So the shorter person should have been given a taller ladder or a step tool so that he can see the game compared to the other. This is what Islam provides in roles and responsibilities. Gives them whatever is needed to fulfill their function and the role in a society fairly and adequately and sufficiently. That is Islam. That is why Islam, when looked at it properly, will be considered to be an Islam, something which is fair and just and rational. Because that's where the whole idea of feminism is totally dismantled by the Islamic application of equity. They're fighting for equality when equality is not going to get you anywhere. Last example, because I had to go.
Me too, yeah.
Me too, because I need to go and let me say, excuse me. No, I need to go now because I have to pray quickly. Okay. So nice speaking to you,
Nice to see you,
and all the best. And look into Islam, and God guide you, make the step, and He will come back to you.
If Islam is a true religion and a true way to
accept
go
it.
to God, is it okay if you could pray for me?
We always pray for everyone, so that God guides everyone. Yeah.
Yeah,
God,
for the Quran as
may
well.
God guide you
Yes, and then for the
and
wisdom,
make
yeah.
that effort
Yeah.
to be guided. Because if you take one step, God will take you 10 steps. Okay?
so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah.